Imagine stepping into a world where success is the ultimate goal, yet the paths taken to reach it couldn't be more different. Some individuals rise through sheer determination, hard work, and integrity, while others claw their way to the top by manipulating, deceiving, and crushing anyone who stands in their way. Strangely, it often seems like the latter group, those willing to cast aside morality, are the ones who achieve the greatest power. Why do the ruthless so often succeed? Is the world designed to reward those who exploit and dominate while punishing those who strive to be fair and just? Look at history, politics, and business, and the same unsettling pattern emerges. Ruthless emperors built empires, cutthroat CEOs turned corporations into global giants, and leaders who abandoned morality in favor of strategy reshaped entire nations. This isn't just a coincidence, it's a deeply ingrained reality, woven into the fabric of human nature and social structures. At its core, power is about survival. Resources are limited, and competition is inevitable. In this brutal reality, those who hesitate, who seek fairness in a world that does not guarantee it, are often left behind. Meanwhile, those who embrace dominance and deception push ahead, carving out success at the expense of others. It raises an uncomfortable question: is morality a weakness in the pursuit of power? Yet history also provides another truth. While those who embrace ruthlessness may rise quickly, their success is often fleeting. Power gained through manipulation and fear is rarely sustainable, and the downfall of history's most ruthless figures is just as dramatic as their rise. This paradox leads to an even deeper question. If the worst among us can rise to the top, what does that mean for those who refuse to abandon their principles? To answer this, we must first understand the nature of power itself. In doing so, we step into the world of Friedrich Nietzsche, one of history's most provocative philosophers, and his controversial idea of master morality versus slave morality. Consider two warriors standing on a battlefield. One is decisive, fearless, and determined. He takes what he wants, bends the world to his will, and does not seek permission. The other hesitates, waiting for validation, hoping fairness will prevail, trusting that his virtue alone will protect him. Which of the two is more likely to survive? Which is more likely to rule? Nietzsche argued that morality itself is not an absolute truth, but a product of power struggles that have existed throughout human history. He identified two fundamental moral systems: master morality and slave morality. Two ways of viewing the world that explain why the ruthless often rise while the virtuous struggle. Master morality is the morality of the strong, the conquerors, the rulers. It values strength, ambition, courage, and power. Those who live by this morality do not wait for approval. They define their own worth. They shape their destiny, viewing weakness not as something to be protected, but as something to be overcome. To them, what is good is whatever enhances their power, and what is bad is whatever diminishes it. Slave morality, on the other hand, is the morality of the oppressed, the powerless, those who cannot impose their will upon the world. Instead of celebrating strength, it glorifies humility, obedience, and self-sacrifice. It teaches that suffering is noble and that power itself is inherently corrupt. Nietzsche saw this as a moral system developed by those who could not dominate, an adaptation that allowed them to survive under the rule of the strong. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Slave morality does not stop the rise of the ruthless. It enables it. By condemning ambition and shaming the pursuit of power, it often leaves control in the hands of those who reject morality altogether. While those with noble intentions hesitate, debating the ethics of their actions, Those who embrace master morality seize opportunities without question. And in a world where hesitation equals defeat, the outcome is inevitable. But does this mean that morality is a weakness? Should we abandon ethics entirely and embrace ruthless ambition to succeed? Or is there another way, one that allows us to balance power with virtue? Imagine a vast, untamed wilderness. In this world, survival isn't about fairness or kindness, it's about adaptability, intelligence, and the willingness to take decisive action. The lion does not ask for permission to hunt, nor does the storm apologize for its destruction. Nature does not favor morality. It rewards endurance, dominance, and the ability to adapt. Human society, despite its laws and institutions, is no different. Beneath the surface of civilization, the primal battle for survival continues, where hesitation can be fatal and power is seized, not given. Those who rise to the top often share one defining characteristic: ruthlessness. Not necessarily cruelty, but the ability to act with precision, unburdened by doubt or guilt. This is not a coincidence, but an evolutionary advantage, a trait that has enabled both individuals and empires to assert control in a world that does not wait for the hesitant. Psychologists have long examined the traits that define success in high-stakes environments, and the findings are strikingly consistent. Ambition, fearlessness, and, perhaps most controversially, a diminished sensitivity to empathy for those who stand in the way often appear in those who achieve great power. This does not suggest that all leaders are devoid of conscience, but it does indicate that many possess a mindset that allows them to act without the emotional restraints that limit others. Throughout history, from conquerors like Julius Caesar to modern-day corporate titans, the same pattern emerges. Power belongs to those who take it. The strong do not seek permission to lead. They step forward, take risks, and worry about the consequences later. This is why the ruthless often rise, while the hesitant remain in the background. Yet, there is a paradox. Ruthlessness alone is not a guarantee of lasting success. History is filled with figures who reached the pinnacle of power only to fall spectacularly. A leader who governs through fear alone will eventually be destroyed by the forces they once controlled. Power gained without wisdom is fragile, and those who rely solely on domination often meet an inevitable demise. If power is most often seized by those who act without hesitation, does this mean morality and fairness are doomed to fail? Not necessarily. But to understand why, one must first confront one of the greatest myths of modern society: the belief that the world is fair. From childhood, people are told comforting stories that reinforce the idea of justice. Fairy tales, religious teachings, and moral philosophies insist that good people will be rewarded, and that virtue will ultimately triumph over evil. But stepping into the real world reveals a far harsher truth. The hardest workers are not always the most successful. The most honest do not always lead. The kindest are often the most broken. This contradiction is not an error in the system, it is the system. Fairness is not a natural law, but a social construct, a narrative designed to maintain order rather than reflect reality. Psychological studies have identified a cognitive bias known as the just world fallacy, the tendency to believe that life is inherently fair, that people ultimately get what they deserve. This belief is dangerous because it breeds passivity. Those who assume that virtue alone will lead to success often fail to recognize the role of competition, strategy, and power. And while they wait for justice, those who do not share their illusions are already moving forward, claiming the rewards for themselves. But does this mean morality is meaningless? Should integrity be discarded in the pursuit of power? Not quite. The key is understanding the game without becoming a slave to it. Those who suffer the most are often the ones who naively believe that kindness alone is enough. But those who learn to balance integrity with calculated strategy, who understand how to wield both strength and compassion, are the ones who rewrite the rules. True power does not come from abandoning morality. It comes from knowing when to enforce it and when to transcend it. Nietzsche saw this struggle as central to human existence. His answer was not to succumb to the illusion of fairness, nor to descend into blind ruthlessness, but to rise beyond both. To grasp this concept fully, we must explore one of Friedrich Nietzsche's most revolutionary ideas: the Übermensch, the individual who transcends morality, illusions, and limitations. Imagine standing at the edge of an abyss. Behind you is the world as it is, bound by injustice, constraints, and the crushing weight of convention. Before you lies the unknown, a path that only the boldest dare to walk. Most hesitate, shackled by fear and doubt, unwilling to abandon the comfort of familiar rules. But a few take the leap. These are the Übermenschen, the ones who rise above the masses, forge their own path, and redefine power on their own terms. Nietzsche's Übermensch is not about brute force or mindless domination. Strength alone does not make a person great. What sets this individual apart is the ability to self-overcome, to reject victimhood, to refuse the morality imposed by others without question, and to shape their own destiny rather than conforming to external expectations. While the weak are held back by fear, hesitation, and guilt, the Übermensch moves forward unburdened by illusions. Yet, here lies the crucial distinction. The Übermensch is not ruthless for the sake of cruelty. Unlike tyrants and manipulators who seize power out of insecurity, they do not seek validation. Their strength comes from within, not from oppression or deception. They do not crave approval, nor do they chase fleeting symbols of success, because their power is self-generated, independent of external recognition. This is why those who rely on manipulation and brute force may rise temporarily, but they never truly transcend. The ruthless play a short game. They climb through cunning and coercion, but their victories are hollow. Their rule is temporary because it is based on fear and exploitation. The Übermensch, in contrast, plays the infinite game, not merely seeking to conquer, but to build something lasting. They are creators, not just takers. The question then is this: how can we embody this mindset? How do we navigate a world that rewards the ruthless while refusing to become like them? The answer lies in understanding power not as a weapon, but as a tool. In any high-stakes arena, whether business, politics, or life itself, those who wait for fairness to protect them inevitably lose. The ruthless understand this. They take what they want. But must you become like them to survive? The mistake most people make is believing there are only two choices: be ruthless or be a victim. But there is a third path, one that blends strategic thinking with integrity, one that allows you to compete without compromising your soul. Nietzsche's philosophy was never about blind domination. It was about transcending weakness while maintaining authenticity. To do this, one must understand power without being enslaved by it. Here's how. The greatest weakness people have is their belief that life should be fair. But fairness is an illusion. The world has never operated on fairness, and those who succeed recognize this early. Instead of wasting energy lamenting injustice, they learn the rules of the game and use them to their advantage. This does not mean abandoning ethics. It means recognizing that power is neutral. It is neither good nor evil, but a force to be understood and wielded wisely. Many fail because they assume that kindness alone will bring success. It won't. Power is rarely given, it is taken. But this does not mean one must resort to cruelty. The key lies in strategic empathy, the ability to read people, understand their motivations, and anticipate their moves. It allows you to navigate deception without becoming deceptive yourself. Fear holds most people back. Fear of failure, rejection, and isolation. It keeps them confined to the expectations of others, hesitant to take risks, and unwilling to stand alone. The Übermensch, however, develops a different kind of strength, one that comes from within. This means embracing discomfort, stepping beyond fear, and forging a path forward despite resistance. The most successful individuals do not wait for approval. They create their own opportunities, turning obstacles into stepping stones. But power is not about reckless ambition or blind ruthlessness. There is a distinction between destructive ruthlessness and controlled ruthlessness. The former seeks chaos without purpose, tearing down simply for the sake of domination. The latter is the ability to make difficult decisions with clarity, knowing when to walk away from toxic situations, challenge outdated norms, or confront uncomfortable truths. Strength is not cruelty, and control is not oppression. True power is the ability to wield force without being consumed by it. While the ruthless may rise quickly, their power often crumbles just as fast. Their dominance is built on manipulation rather than creation, making them fragile despite their outward strength. The true Übermensch does not just take power. They build something that lasts. Whether it is a movement, a business, or a transformation of the self, power that is earned rather than stolen cannot be easily taken away. But this leads to a deeper question. Is power itself evil, or is it simply misunderstood? It is a force that shapes lives, determining who thrives and who remains at the mercy of others. The pursuit of power is often framed as corrupt, yet Nietzsche saw it differently, not as a means of domination, but as a drive for creation and self-overcoming. The will to power, as he described it, is not about crushing others beneath one's heel. It is about surpassing oneself, breaking free from limitations, and becoming more than what society has dictated. Yet history has shown that power and corruption often walk hand in hand. Countless leaders, once in control, have fallen to greed, ego, and tyranny. This paradox forces us to ask, is power inherently corrupt? Or does it merely reveal the truth about human nature? Nietzsche argued that power, in its purest form, is neither good nor evil. It is an internal force, a hunger to reach beyond one's current state and redefine reality. True power is not about bending others to your will, but about mastering yourself. Power is not a weapon to be feared, but a tool to be mastered. It can shape empires or destroy them, elevate individuals or consume them. Its impact depends entirely on the intent behind it. Power is not inherently evil, but it is dangerous when placed in the wrong hands. A person without integrity will wield it destructively, using it to manipulate, exploit, and oppress. But when held by someone with discipline, vision, and a commitment to self-mastery, power becomes a force for unimaginable greatness. Nietzsche's greatest challenge to humanity was not to fear power, but to understand it, harness it, and rise beyond the limitations that society has imposed. The path forward is not submission. It is not blind aggression. It is the discipline to navigate the world without being controlled by it. Mastering power is not about becoming ruthless. It is about transcending fear, breaking free from illusion, and becoming the architect of one's own destiny.